Hello, and welcome to 5 Things to Know. I'm joined today by Krista Sullivan of the Internal Revenue Service. Krista started her career with the IRS as a field collection revenue officer and group manager, and worked as a local stakeholder liaison before serving their current role as senior tax analyst. Krista, welcome to Tax Talk today, where IRS representatives and tax industry leaders come together to share their knowledge and experiences working with federal tax law. I'd like to talk to you today about the CAF numbers, how we use them, what we use them for, and I can't wait for this conversation because this is an ever-changing world as of late, especially with the Tax Pro account. But first of all, let's start with a basic question. What is a CAF number, and why do we need one?
Hey, that's a great question. So a CAF number is a 9-digit number that is used to identify a person who is authorized to either represent or receive confidential tax information on a taxpayer's account. So the CAF number is actually linked to your IRS individual tax ID number, whether that be a Social Security number or an ITIN. You can have a CAF, and the CAF is a database. CAF stands for Centralized Authorization File, which is a database where the IRS records the authorizations on file for taxpayers with their representatives based on the tax matters and periods that are authorized by the taxpayer.
I understand that a non-tax professional can get a CAF number should they be representing or working, helping another taxpayer as well. But really, I'd like to focus our program more up towards the tax professionals. And I have had a Tax Pro account for a long time. And a Tax Pro account keeps on growing and changing. We started called e-services, I believe. Now we have this Tax Pro account. But can I link my CAF number with the Tax Pro account? How do I do that?
You may. And actually, I think it's wonderful that you have a Tax Pro account, and we keep coming out with new functionality over time. So a Tax Pro account is very beneficial to tax professionals. So I'm glad that you have one. And we always encourage every tax professional to use that feature. So in order to get a Tax Pro account, you do need to authenticate your identity with our third-party vendor, which is called ID.me. If you already have an individual online account with the IRS, you have already gone through that process. So it's really easy to set up your Tax Pro account. All you have to do is click on Tax Pro account on the Tax Pro page on irs.gov, and then it will ask you for your ID.me information. You can log right in, and there it is. It's got all of your information seamlessly transferred from your individual online account and your IRS record on your tax ID number. So you can actually, if you don't have a CAF number yet, you can request one in the Tax Pro account, which is a new feature, which is really wonderful for tax professionals because you can receive that CAF number, in real time. Whereas if you are requesting a CAF number by traditional means, which means you request it directly through our CAF unit, it can take up to 2 to 6 weeks to get that CAF number.
I wanted to go back a second here and talk about linking, and I've done this myself, but I'd like to, and I know that you'll probably be able to explain it a lot easier than I did, is how we could link our CAF number to our Tax Pro account, and then we could talk about the benefits afterwards.
That sounds great. So linking your CAF number in your Tax Pro account is a 2-step process. The first thing you need to do is you access the Tax Pro account, and there is a button that you can click called Link My CAF. And actually, then you get into another page where you need to request your PIN. So there's a button to click for that. So once you click Request My PIN, it will send that message to the IRS, and a PIN will be generated, but it will be mailed to you. So that does take 5 to 10 business days. And if there's any old address on file with the CAF, that we have heard that can impact some taxpayers or tax professionals, receiving their PIN. So it's really important to make sure that your address on file is current with the IRS so that you do receive that PIN. Now, once you've received the PIN, you go back into the Tax Pro account and you click Link My CAF. And then once you do that, this is where the magic happens. It links your CAF number in the Tax Pro account, and in real time, all of your current authorizations on file will appear. So you will see not only individual authorizations, but business authorizations will also appear there, even though you cannot currently request a business authorization through the Tax Pro account.
Okay, once I'm linked to my CAF is linked to the Tax Pro account, what's available to me. I know that one thing I saw, I had an awful lot of power of attorney sitting out there that just seemed to be, I'd forgotten to represent these taxpayers from 10, 15 years ago.
Yes, yes.
What
So
else?
that's the beauty of this feature in the Tax Pro account. And that, I think, is the best benefit that's offered to tax professionals, is that ability to withdraw your power of attorney authorizations right through the CAP or through the Tax Pro account. So what you do is you go in and you will click on a particular taxpayer, and you actually go through, and there's a little box that you check that says withdraw POA, and that's all there is to it. So then it will transmit that information. You submit it then, and it transmits to the IRS. The POA is withdrawn, and then the taxpayer is notified by a CP 312 letter, which lets them know. So if it's a really old authorization and you hardly remember the taxpayer, they might not remember they had you either. So you might expect to get some calls as a result of something like this if you're going through and cleaning house, shall we say.
Well, I can attest to those phone calls because I did get a few of those phone calls, and I reminded those taxpayers that we've completed that 2012 audit. So if they need my service in the future, but as a note to tax pros out there, whenever we withdraw or rescind our power of attorneys, it's important to let the taxpayer know beforehand that you're going to do that, and that they will be receiving this letter, just because it's just good practice and in a big scheme of things. Now, what other options do I have with this? Once we're linked together here, what can I do as far as what do I see on there, as well as can I use my Tax Pro account to get other authorizations in the future?
Yes, you can. I'm going to take the first part of that question first. What can you see in the Tax Pro account for your taxpayers? You can actually view a lot of their account information. You can see if they have a balance. You can see payment activity, and if there's any, say there are balances on a couple of different tax periods that add up to that balance that you're seeing. You can actually drill down and see what the details are as to the various tax periods that may have a balance. So you're able to see all that information. You can also set up payment plans or make payments on behalf of a taxpayer through the Tax Pro account. You can set up a short-term installment agreement and a long-term installment agreement. There are some conditions based on dollar amounts. For example, if it's over a certain dollar limit, it won't let you do that. But for real easy cases, it's really nice to be able to do some of those things right through the Tax Pro account. Let's talk about how you get your authorization on file, because there's a few different methods to do that. When you're going through the Tax Pro account to request an authorization, first and foremost, you can only request for individuals at this time. You can't do businesses quite yet, but that is coming down the road. Not sure when. But when you do that, it's known as a digital authorization as opposed to an electronic authorization. So the reason why it's called digital is because you, as the tax professional, will just check a box to sign, and the taxpayer, when they authorize that authorization, they will also check a box. So that's what makes it a digital authorization. Now, it's a little bit tricky because there are some requirements around this. The first thing is once you've got your CAF linked and everything in the Tax Pro account, your information will pre-populate in the authorization as you're setting it up. The taxpayer's information must be entered exactly as it's reflected on IRS records. So we recommend getting a copy of a notice that they've received so that you have all the exact characters and information on how that taxpayer's information is reflected on IRS records. Now, the second part of this that's required is the taxpayer must approve this authorization in their individual online account. So if they don't have an individual online account, never fear, they can still set one up. They have 120 days to do that before your submitted authorization would expire. So we do hear from some people that, my taxpayer is elderly and they don't have the ability to set up an online account. That might not be the case to use the Tax Pro account for an authorization. Now, the other methods still work to request authorizations, but they do take longer. Now, another important piece of this is you need to notify the client that the authorization is there waiting for them to approve, because you got to connect. If there's multiple representatives that want to represent that same taxpayer for those same tax periods, the taxpayer has to authorize all those approvals on the same day, or if they do it on multiple days, the following days will reverse the original ones. It will overwrite the first ones. Does that make sense? And only up to 2 representatives can receive correspondence.
Yeah.
So those are just some tricky things about it. But, once they do approve it, it's approved in real time, which it can take up to 48 hours, but generally it happens much quicker because it's just the computer is checking the information. A human being does not have to be involved in the process, and that's why it's so fast. So the other ways are traditional mail or fax. And then there's, of course, the Submit Online 2848 and 8821 tool. So for those, you can secure an authorization, and then what you do is you scan it and upload it through that tool to the IRS. Now, I mentioned electronic signatures in the past, before when I was talking. You can use a digital, like a DocuSign signature on those. That's acceptable, or a wet signature. So you can do that. You can upload those, and those do still go in on a first in, first out basis, which is how the CAF unit processes authorizations. When a person has to verify all the information and then enter the information into the CAF database. Now, good news on that front right now, as of March 18th, the CAF unit is processing new authorizations within 5 business days. And you can find that information at any time by going to irs.gov and put in the search box processing status. And the first thing that'll come up will be processing status of tax returns. And then if you scroll down on that page, the power of attorney information is listed down there at the bottom.
Well, I can talk a little bit from personal experience here, and that is that I've had very much luck where I've been able to access clients' information, pull transcripts within a couple hours after doing a digital signature, and within a couple of days after doing a upload. I have stopped faxing and I've not mailed for many, many years. Okay, now there's something new that I was not aware of, and I love learning stuff every day, and that is now there is a business CAF that we can get for our businesses. I'm a sole practitioner, so it wouldn't necessarily fit in my world, but I can imagine that some of these larger box stores or other type of businesses really could benefit this. Can you explain that a little bit, please?
Sure thing. Yes, this is so exciting, actually, to me, being a tax nerd, I guess you could say. But this new feature was released on February 9th. There's a news release out there. And this new release within the Tax Pro account is for tax preparation businesses specifically. What it provides is for those businesses to receive a business CAF number and then link it within the Tax Pro account. From there, they can set up authorized users, which would be employees of their firm, under 8821 or tax information authorization level authority, to be able to view and see all the tax information for the covered people. Now, how do you get that business CAF number? That's a question that I asked when I first heard about this, and I think it's a good one. So, in order to receive a business CAF number, you would send an 8821 tax information authorization form to the CAF unit, and you would include your business's taxpayer information. So the EIN of your business, the tax name and address of the business, and then you would check, provide me with a CAF number. And then they'll issue a CAF number for your business. And then what you do in the Tax Pro account, once you receive the business CAF number, is you go through the same linking process with a PIN, have to request a PIN, and then you have to go ahead and link it once you get that PIN. And then from there, you, as the authorized official on the business, would be able to then add authorized users. And you do need to have their social security number, their name, and those pieces in order to do that. So that needs to match their IRS records.
Out of curiosity, and you may not know the answer to this, but do these users also need to have their own CAF number or just a social security number?
They would It's only using the social security number. So my understanding is they wouldn't necessarily need a CAF number.
Now, can I turn off the user? We unfortunately, not everybody works for indefinitely for us, and they tend to go and move on to different things. Can I turn them on and off?
Yes, that's a great question, Alan. It's really important. In fact, I recommend that at the end of a tax season or whenever throughout the year, if you've authorized users on your tax bureau account with your business, you should definitely remove them. You can add and remove at any time any of the users that you've authorized on your tax bureau account. So yes, definitely something to include, in your offboarding activities when someone leaves the firm. It's a best practice.
Thank you. Chris, this has been really great so far, and there's so much more that I should talk about. Any last words? Anything that you really wanted to let us know about before we wrap this up?
Sure. One thing that I always would like to remind tax pros is to go to irs.gov and click on tax pros up at the top right-hand corner and bookmark that page, because then it's just the first, you have it come up all the time. You're right there. You've got access to e-services, tax pro account, all the other things that you need as a tax professional, how to contact the practitioner priority service, etc. So bookmarking, and absolutely set up your tax pro account and use it. That is just a general rule, and encourage your clients to use the individual online account. As you know, we are transitioning to more electronic means of communication, and getting digital access to your information is really key. Taxpayers get their information on their banks electronically more and more these days, and so why shouldn't they have access to their IRS information as well in that easy way? So we need your help in promoting that, and we appreciate you all using Tax Pro account, and we look forward to hearing good feedback and any issues that you might have with regard to that. So you can contact your local stakeholder liaison for assistance if you run into any issues.
This has been really great, Krista. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing about the importance of the CAF number as a security measure for authorized practitioners to access confidential information, to submit forms, and to speak to the IRS on behalf of the clients. In my practice, this has been a huge time saver for me and has brought peace of mind when I'm speaking with the IRS. I'm glad we have them. Thanks again, and thanks to all of you for viewing. As always, it's been great learning with you.
Thank you, Alan. It was my pleasure to be here today.
Tax Talk Today, the tax show for the tax pro, is the innovative educational program presented in collaboration with the IRS, designed exclusively for today's tax practitioner.
There's various loss limitation rules we need to be aware of when we have a business activity.
Each program features in-depth panel discussions with key IRS executives and leading authorities from the tax practitioners community. Tax Talk Today features real-time interaction. Innovative and easy to use, Tax Talk Today is the only program that brings the IRS directly to you. Tax Talk Today can be viewed in large groups in the office or from the convenience of your home. To get continuing education credits for watching a program, purchase your CPE credits today. Tax Talk Today, the tax show for the tax pro.